Rushed to a fire with hazardous materials at a Tesla repair shop. This happened this morning in North Phoenix near 7th Avenue and Deer Valley Road. The flames had burned through the roof by the time fire crews arrived. They were able to stop it from spreading, and before reaching those hazardous materials inside the building, no one was hurt, and there is still no word how it started.
Prende fuoco anche l'edificio. Il problema è che c'è. Adesso si fa i video.
Oh mio Dio ragazzi, come cazzo sono qua?
Guarda come è già dentro. Oh, Sonia! Stai calma. No, stanno arrivando da là.
Mamma! Eccoli qua. Gli altri si
no, sono fuori qui.
Hier kann man Landweg, ihr kennt es derweil bei der Autobahnauffahrt, in der Reserve bleiben, ich melde mich gleich wieder. Das ist ein Tesla, ja? Was ist da mit den Batterien?
Das Problem ist, dass da das, was ich weiß, die Chemikalien heißen, dass das eine ewige Prozedur war, jetzt mit Testen.
Ja.
Und die BZ.
BZ Landweg, kommt man Landweg kommen. Noch wieder, ja. Hier kann man Landweg. Nicht verstanden wiederholen können. Hier kann man entlang. Es speist die Tunnel 2, gell? Ja, positiv.
Yeah, this family was very lucky. There was no major damage to the home here. Cleanup efforts have been going on throughout the day. The Tesla caught on fire inside of the garage here. You're looking at video from overnight after firefighters got the car to the street. You can see them opening the Tesla's door and then flames shooting out. Plano Fire told me when they first got here, firefighters threw a tarp on the car to get it contained, then towed it from the garage to the street, where they continued to fight the blaze for hours. The department says the lithium battery used in Teslas and other electric vehicles was the challenge in putting the fire out. And at one point, firefighters had to lift the car up off the ground to hose down the battery compartment.
No cause right now at all. Still very much early and under investigation. The only thing that we know is that it was an electric vehicle, and we had to get on that battery. The firefighting is very different. It's really just cooling and containing. Trying to keep the car body, the interior from catching fire and adding heat to the equation. The crews this morning did a great job.
The owners of the car didn't want to go on camera, but they told me they had just picked the Tesla up from the dealership after getting its battery replaced. They say they had it in the garage around 12:30 last night when they started hearing clinking noises and then saw smoke. Fortunately, there were no serious injuries, although the car owner did have to go to the hospital and get checked out for smoke inhalation. We did go to the Tesla dealership where that car was serviced. They declined to comment. We also reached out to Tesla corporate and are waiting to hear back. Reporting here in Plano, I'm Janelle Fort.
They happen all the time, but a car fire in Rancho Cordova is getting some extra attention after fire crews had to improvise to put it out. That's because this was no ordinary car fire. It was a Tesla. And tonight we're getting answers on why electric vehicle fires are much more difficult to fight. This Tesla fire along Highway 50 is the latest example of just how difficult electric vehicle fires can be.
They pose a little bit of a different problem.
Sac Metro firefighters say gas-powered vehicles can usually be extinguished with the 700 gallons of water carried by a single fire engine. But electric vehicles use lithium-ion batteries that take a lot more effort.
It's not just put water on it, put it out, and go home.
Captain Daniel Hoy says crews were on this fire for 3 hours, going through 6,000 gallons of water before it was put out.
So it's really changed for the fire service.
These fires also create a new type of hazard for first responders.
There's still stranded energy in those batteries, and we risk electrocution.
And fire crews are bracing for more of these calls as the number of electric vehicles grows. California has a goal of having 5 million EVs on the road by 2030, and Governor Newsom has banned the sales of all new gas-powered cars by 2035.
The challenge is recognizing them and understanding the hazards that come with those.
Metro Fire has responded to 3 Tesla fires so far. The first was in an auto wrecking yard where crews dug a trench and submerged the car in water to extinguish the blaze. This time, they tilted the car up with jacks, spraying water directly into the bottom battery compartment. Firefighters say there's no standard response for this type of emergency, so they're learning something new each time.
Over the next couple of years, there are going to be a lot of different ways that people are going to come up with to.
A Tesla Model S Plaid burst into flames earlier this week while the owner was driving it, just 3 days after delivery. The driver's attorney says the driver was initially not able to get out of the car as the locks malfunctioned, and he had to force his way to the door, through the door, to escape. According to the Lower Merion Fire Department in Pennsylvania, copious amounts of water were poured on the vehicle for over 2 hours in order to extinguish the fire and render the scene safe. We've reached out for comment from Tesla, have not heard back. The driver's attorney, Mark Garagos, was supposed to join us to discuss all this, but canceled on us in the last minute. So let's bring in Phil LeBeau with the latest details on this story. Phil, was this the battery that caught on fire? What do we know?
We don't know a whole lot, Sarah, and that's what makes this sort of interesting. Also because this is a battery fire in a Tesla that was not involved in a crash. At least we don't think it was involved in a crash. They say the driver was driving along when he noticed there was some smoke. Then he realized he needed to get out of the car. According to Mark Garagos, he couldn't open the door. Eventually was able to get out of the car, and then it was completely engulfed in flames. The fact that there was not a crash involved is significant because many of the stories that we've reported on and others have reported on over the last year and a half, 2 years, have involved Teslas where they burst into flames following an accident. And often it's because the lithium-ion battery pack has been punctured in some fashion. So this crash raises the question, but certainly does not indicate that it's true that there was some type of a software malfunction that caused this fire. But it certainly is a question that has come up. And you know, we'd love to talk to the driver. I know that Mark Garagos was supposed to be on the air with us. We'd also like to talk to the driver. I mean, it's one thing to hear from the attorney. It's another thing to hear from the driver himself.
Phil, does Tesla, as a percentage of total cars they have on the road, have more issues than other companies, or do we cover them more? It feels like there's more stories like this for Tesla than other brands.
I think they get more attention for a couple of reasons. One, because you have these reports when it takes place, whether it's the fire department or local press, where they say, oh, a Model S crashed, or a Model 3 or Model Y, whatever Tesla model it might be, and it burst into flames, and these flames are all over the place, and then it's on social media. In the case of the fire down in Houston, in the fatality involving 2 people who were in a Tesla, you had the fire department saying, well, yeah, there was nobody behind the steering wheel, and so there was somebody in the back seat. Were they trying to make autopilot function? Which raised a whole number of questions that the media then chased. Tesla fans do have a point when they say there's too much coverage about these fires, because if you look at Tesla fires relative to the number of vehicle fires, especially with internal combustion engine vehicles, it's a very, very small percentage, and yet they get most of the attention.
Well, Garagos has said in previous interviews that he wants NHTSA to recall the cars from the road. Hope he'll join us, because we have a lot of questions. Phil LeBeau, for now, thank you.
829, gas is empty, forward left, process. Information, postal supervisor, will you advise? She is being held against her will by husband. He needs to access the location and will block the on place.
Hey, stand behind the car. Stand behind the car, because this shit blows. It's going to get blown out.
Thank you for calling.
It's a Tesla. What? Tesla.
The Tesla getting burnt next to my house.
We got some underwater fireworks going on right here.
Now, I'm always a little bit skeptical when I see these videos claiming to be EV failures that circulate around the internet. So I did some digging, and it turns out this one actually was an EV. This was a Model X that was backing a jet ski into the water. Unfortunately, something failed that Model X rolled into the water, submerging itself completely. It ended up failing. The battery went into thermal runaway under the water. And what you're seeing here is the battery's off-gassing a lot of flammable gases. Those gases are burning above the water. Now the battery's probably burning under the water as well, because again, these batteries don't need oxygen from the outside atmosphere to burn. Now this happened at the Polk Street boat ramp in Hollywood, Florida, and when firefighters arrived, they decided to allow that car to burn underwater until the thermal runaway was complete. Once the thermal runaway was complete, they pulled that vehicle out of the water, they loaded it up on a tow truck, and they actually had an apparatus follow that tow truck to the salvage yard, which is actually a very smart idea, because having that vehicle on top of the tow truck after it's been submerged in salt water, you can have a secondary fire, you can have a reignition inside of that battery. You don't know for sure, did that battery burn all the way through, burn through all the lithium-ion batteries prior to coming out of the water. Now, while I was researching this incident, I found two other incidents that were very similar. They both involved salt water, electric vehicles, and a runway car going into. There's a lot of Tesla owners out there that tow boats. Now, as you can imagine, this could be a very large issue, especially when you start talking about salt water. And you can see as this Tesla has just dropped off its boat, it's coming up the ramp. There's a lot of water being drained out of the undercarriage of that vehicle. That is not good for the batteries. That's not good for all the components underneath that vehicle. That salt water will get in there and just start corroding things and tearing things up. Ends up being a very large risk for fire eventually down the road.